Good afternoon to everyone that's already joined into the session. Nice to be able to have you here today on the sunny day, at least it is in Stockholm, Sweden. Wherever you are sitting physically, thanks for taking the time to be able to join in with us virtually. We'll take just one moment and allow the last individuals that will join at the top of the hour, running from one team's meeting to the next, be able to join us. And then we'll get into the day's content of 4 case studies showing the ROI of SRM software, one that we're really looking forward to highlight some of the successes of some of our customers and hopefully some insights that others in attendance can be able to take away as to the opportunities they can create in their businesses as well. We'll wait just one more moment and let some of the last attendees file into the event. I'll take a sip of some fuel here. And now the clock has struck 3 p.m. Central European Time, 2 p.m. UK, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard. Let's get into things. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for attending the 4 case studies showing the ROI of SRM software. My name is Sam Jenks. I'm the CRO as well as then an SRM expert. Been in the space for coming up on 10 years and never looking back. I look forward to showing to all of you in attendance today some of the success stories of our customers and how it is that they're seeing the ROI of supplier relationship management, the programs that they're running, and the technology that they've adopted via our solution. To get into today's agenda, we're going to provide a brief background of Kodiak Hub. We're also going to be able to get into how SRM, of course, will impact things in a modern day of procurement. We're going to talk about learnings from the other side of the coin. How can we be able to actually take some applications of the ways that sales organizations talk about ROI for supplier relationship management and apply that within selling our value to our organizations to get investment. We're also going to cover then some customer case studies and success stories that we've seen from our customers, and then we'll get also into a Q&A. Now, I'm going to provide a background of Kodiak Hub in just a moment, but I wanted to bring everybody's attention before we get into the day's content to the chat line. The chat line here allows us to be able to communicate with other attendees. To be able to start heating up the chat line, why does everybody just take a second to write into where you're calling in from? I'll do the same. Calling in from sunny Stockholm, Sweden. So if everyone could be able to pop into the chat line really quickly, just a quick hello and where it is that you're calling in from, that would be fantastic. Awesome. Volker from France, Lyon. Monique in Malta. Vienna. Hello, Joe from the UK, Oslo, Berlin, France, Sweden, London, Slovenia, Argentina, Sweden, Leeds. Gotta love Leeds. We have a customer, DLA Piper, that sits there as well. Switzerland. Hello, Emmanuel. Awesome to be able to see such a transcontinental gang here and looking forward to then getting into today's content during the session as well. So without any further ado, let's give some background about who Kodiak Hub is, and then we will get into the rest of the content. Again, focusing on SRM in the modern age, selling the ROI, some of the learnings that we can take from the other side of the coin, and then we'll get into the actual customer case studies and success stories. Brief about us. Kodiak is a supplier relationship management solution, an end-to-end solution. In the last 24 months, we've raised $11 million in Series A funding. We have a global team spread out between the Nordics, UK, DACH, and the US. And we like to pride ourselves on having a platform that our customers love and rave about. We couldn't do this without our customers. If there's any customers in attendance, I know that there was 1 or 2 that were signed up. Thank you so much for your trust. We appreciate it. We appreciate you pushing us forward. It's the thing that keeps us at the forefront of our space as well. If you want to learn more about what our customers think, please go check us out on SpendMatter, Capterra, G2, and the likes. Our solution, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, and of course, we're not really going to focus on our solution per se today, but more so the value that SRM has to bring. With that being said, we wanted to set the scene with those of you that are in attendance that are interested in learning about our platform and are not familiar. It is a end-to-end supplier relationship management solution, a suite of modules that allow our customers to be able to manage risk, data, documentation, collaboration and communication, as well as then orchestrate processes that are crucial to the lifecycle management of the supplier base. If you're interested in learning more about our platform, I'm sure that you're going to learn some more during today's session, but you can absolutely also get in touch with our team of SRM experts that would be happy to give you a view of the platform in a more thorough manner and also unique potentially to your business's requirements as well. These are some of our customers that we're working with today. Great global brands, the brag slide, so to say. Like I said before, we couldn't do it without these particular businesses helping to push us forward, always challenging us, and we appreciate that. With that being said, we are an SRM solution, but we are not an SRM solution for everyone and anyone. We typically work with businesses that have global and complex supply chains where quality is critical and sustainability matters. We like to work with businesses that are focused on direct material sourcing. Those are solution businesses that also get a lot of value from our platform, and it's about 70% of our customer base. With that being said as well, we look to work with businesses that are also trying to take a journey of not just managing risk, but ultimately trying to push forward resilience within their broader supply chain. Now, before we get into today's content, I do in fact want to be able to pause for the first poll. And I'm curious in understanding where everybody is in their own journey of supplier relationship management at this particular point in time. So please take a moment to be able to answer the poll that is on screen now. The results will be public to everyone that is also in attendance. I'm curious in understanding where you are in your journey so we can be able to just kind of gauge a little bit of the crowd that's out there. Are you currently just gaining an understanding of the markets and the capabilities? Are you building momentum internally? Are you actively looking for SRM systems? Maybe you're in touch with our team already. Maybe, for example, you're out there in market and just starting your search. Or are you already mature and have adopted an SRM solution, whether it be the Kodiak solution or others? Just take a moment to be able to fill in the poll. Oh, come on, we can do better than that. I see only 50% of the attendees have filled in the poll. If you don't mind taking the time to be able to do so. Awesome. So it seems like the majority, about 70% of attendees then are in the awareness phase as well as the education phase. So building momentum and gaining an understanding, awesome. Whereas 20% are actively looking and 10% of those that have responded already have a system as well. Awesome. For those of you that are actively looking, hopefully we'll be able to arm you with some of the right verbiage, the right kind of levers to pull on internally to be able to sell the ROI of SRM and also to hear some of the success stories of our customers. For those of you that are already utilizing a solution, hopefully we'll be able to show you what type of value you should be getting out of your solution if you're not already today. And for those of you that are in earlier phases, awareness and education, hopefully we'll give you some material to be able to take back to your teams and get them also as excited as you seem to be about supplier relationship management as well. So thank you for taking the time to be able to answer that particular poll. I want to start today's presentation by saying congrats. I know that might not always feel that way, but procurement, sourcing, supply chain functions, you guys are business critical. You are mission critical in 2025. It's ironic, right? It took a global pandemic, resource shortages, tariff and geopolitical strains to be able to bring you guys to the forefront. But everybody understands supply chain functions, procurement and sourcing functions are mission critical to the success of our businesses. Why? Well, the majority of value created sits within the supply chain. And if you are not, of course, having a seat at the table to be able to take decisions about the future of your business, the strategic direction, then of course that's putting a lot of value at risk. This, of course, is a great thing and a great trend that we see within 2025. Unfortunately, however, procurement as a function still doesn't always have the tools that they need to get the job done. I think that we just saw it, right? Only 10% of the people sitting in today's session already have a solution for SRM. What we see and why our founder and CEO founded this company, Malin Schmidt, is because we believe that SRM will take the exact same journey that CRM took 20 years ago. In fact, it's one of the reasons she founded this company. She was tired of seeing people like myself in sales and marketing with our glossy CRM solutions and think to herself, well, why in the heck don't I have the same thing on the other side of the business? Procurement has an abundance of data, documentation, and information. The interesting thing is that, though, without the right tools, it remains just that: information, data. And that data ends up just becoming exhaust. It's something that's used once and then never looked at again. Our focus and the focus of supplier relationship management is to take an end-to-end approach to make sure that your information is able to drive actionable insights that will, of course, drive your procurement organization towards more strategic decisions. But the fact is that data-driven procurement isn't just about better decisions, it's about speed. In this abundance, in this era of AI, we recognize that we have to be able to act faster than ever before. And unfortunately, nobody's getting the job done when we're living in a reality that looks like this. So I want to take 1 second to be able to pause for another poll here and just understand, how exactly is your team currently managing SRM in your organization? Do you have Excel and homegrown solutions? Are you utilizing a broader source to pay solution? Do you already have a dedicated SRM, or do you not have anything currently in place? You know, humor me and take a moment to be able to answer this particular poll. Again, to be able to take a little bit of a pulse on the maturity of those that are in attendance. And don't worry, your response will only be shared with the rest of the people as far as a percentage rather than that you're actually responding. We're all amongst friends here. Please just take a moment to be able to respond to the poll here that's on screen. All right. So it looks like where the majority of individuals are living today, and this, of course, was only with 50% of responses, now 56, closing in on 60% of the attendance. It seems almost about 70% of those in attendance today are utilizing Excel and homegrown solutions or do not have anything. So you're living in the area, the age of status quo, right? You don't have a dedicated solution. You don't have a broader source to pay solution that's managing supplier relationships. And the interesting thing is that this doesn't deviate too far away from the poll that we took in 2024. It's a slight improvement, of course, with a smaller sample size. We did a project and a white paper together with ProcureTech back in 2024, before their acquisition by Aura Labs, when they were an analyst group. And we found that 72% of procurement teams are still managing suppliers with Excel or homegrown solutions to be able to manage supplier relationship and performance management, which of course is still closely aligned with what we've just polled here today. The fact is that SRM is an important facet of the broader source to pay. But the focus of SRM can't just be on the technology. And I know that that might sound odd as a technology provider to be able to say, but truly it is also about the mindset. And we drive this home almost every single one of our webinars that we host. Why? Is because it is so important that we have a mindset shift. The source to pay process of yesteryear, where source to pay is broken down into two main blocks: source to contract and procure to pay, with the subset of activities living underneath that. SRM was kind of an embedded function or an embedded focus of the broader source to contract expectation. The fact is that supplier relationship today is much more than that. It is an end-to-end approach, and it needs to be a life cycle approach equal to the things that are happening within your ERP solution. Why? Because the relationship and the life cycle of your supplier does not start and end at a contract or a PO getting cut and then, of course, then getting paid. It's not just about segmentation. Sure, that is a critical part. Segmenting your suppliers, setting up your category strategy, and executing upon it. But the supplier relationship and managing that needs to be an end-to-end approach from the beginning of the relationship to the in-life cycle management to ensure that you are extracting the full value out of your supplier relationships as well. So we wanted to be able to frame before we start talking about supplier relationship management and the value that it has brought to our customers and the value that it can continue to bring to procurement teams in the space. What do we mean by smart SRM? We always come back to this exact same model. The pyramid is the foundation for supplier relationship management to reach your full pinnacle, right? Which is to drive collaboration, to drive innovation, to drive impact in the supplier base. Now, the fact is, its full potential, the strategic value of SRM, unfortunately, by most organizations, it's hard to reach, right? The main reason being is because getting the things right from an operational and tactical perspective are crucial, otherwise the pyramid falls. With that being said, truly sound and foundational SRM must include the majority, if not all, of these components to ensure that you're managing relationships at an operational, tactical, and strategic perspective. And this is also the way that you should look to your supplier relationship systems to be able to benefit you. Additionally, this is the way that you should look to frame the actual value that supplier relationship can be able to bring back to your organization. If you're looking for a framework of how to be able to talk about the value of supplier management, here it is. Operationally, tactically, and strategically, how will these things impact our business? And what we've recognized is that it's easier said than done, right? Buying technology is not easy. Okay. And buying technology and procurement is particularly difficult. And this isn't just us that's saying so. Gartner did a poll in 2024, and they found that procurement organizations only get 17% of the technology that they ask for. You go to your CFO with 10 solutions, you might get 2 of them. Let that sink in for a second. That means that 83% of the technology that one wants to buy, we don't get budget for. I think that we have to ask ourselves why. And then after we ask ourselves why, and we've picked ourselves off the ground, right? We need to be able to make sure that we are selling the benefits of the technology that we want to be able to buy. And the reason why I wanted to be able to look at the other side of the coin, how we are working to help our customers to sell the benefit, is because I think it could be a useful exercise to frame the way that we are looking to be able to impact the business cases that we're building. Now, before we look at some inspiration from the other side of the coin, taking some benefits from how we're selling this case, I wanted to be able to take one moment and just ask a simple question. In the last 12 months, have you tried to get investment in a procurement tool and budget became the barrier? It's a very simple question. Yes or no? In the last 12 months, have you tried to get investment in a procurement tool and budget became the barrier? Very interesting. It's pretty neck and neck here. I'm curious as well for those that said no, that budget was not a barrier in the last 12 months to be able to invest in a procurement tool. Did you get the procurement tool that you were looking to buy? And if not, well, then what was the barrier? If that was the case, if you still didn't get the investment, budget wasn't the barrier, but there was something else that was the barrier, I'm curious if you could just write that in the chat line if you're free, if you're open to sharing. And nobody needs to share here either, but it'd be interesting to be able to hear as a discussion point with peers in the future as well. What I wanted to take a moment to be able to highlight, however, is that the majority of buying happens without me in the room, right? Our global sales organization is in the room about 20% of the time. In fact, I think that the most recent statistics is that B2B buying is about 83% of B2B buying of software as a service, cloud-based solutions is done without me in the room. So what does that mean? Is that our sales organization and sales organizations globally have had to figure out ways to be able to empower and embolden those champions of change within an organization to be able to go and get that investment. And we need to be better at it than ever before. Why? Is because only 17% of the tech that you guys want is getting bought. So what I wanted to take a moment to be able to do is to share, how do we help our customers to build cases that prove back value utilizing the metrics that truly matter as well. So what I wanted to be able to talk about for a moment is a concept, a framework, a qualification framework called MEDDPICC. Now, before I start talking at everybody and we get a understanding of, do you know what MEDDPICC framework is? Yes or no? Maybe some of you that have worked within sales are familiar with this. Some of you that have not, probably not, right? Oh, awesome. Well, I'm about to give away the secret sauce of how people are selling or not selling very well in that case. But hopefully we'll come out on the other side and it will help you guys to be able to sell more efficiently within your organizations. So MEDDPICC is an acronym, as you guys can probably tell. This acronym stands in particular for a sales qualification, and it's a framework that helps people like me selling enterprise solutions to identify and manage a deal, right? From the start to actually trying to support anyone that is a champion of change, helping them to be able to get investment in a tool. Excuse me. So what does MEDDPICC stand for? You can see on screen here the actual definition of each of these particular areas. Metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, paper process, identify pain, the champion, and competition. Now, this is the framework that the majority of enterprise sellers are utilizing, and this is insider baseball here, right? Are utilizing this particular framework to try and help qualify, is this particular business the type of business that is ready to buy? Are they in fact going to be able to have a decision process that will move forward in a timeline that's necessary? Have we been able to identify the pains that we can solve for them, and can we actually solve those pains for them? But the most important thing of this is the top element, the metrics. Can we quantifiably say we can be able to create value and impact for this particular organization? And this is one of the things that we are always trying to get to the core of within a sales organization. Why? Is because, again, it is harder to buy tech today than ever before. And the majority of time, we are not in the room. You are in the room selling. So what I wanted to be able to share with you is the ideology behind metrics and the topic of M1, M2, and M3 metrics. This is a way that in sales, we typically would qualify what level of metrics do we in fact have uncovered here with the prospect that is looking to be able to buy technology. M1 being the basic problem. Here's what's broken. M2 being potentially the quantified cost. M3 being the strategic value to the business. So this is linking individual problems to team costs to the strategic value that an organization can be able to understand and be able to realize. So let's get into each of these very quickly. What do we mean by M1 metrics? These are the early signals or the friction that can be felt, right? It's an inefficiency that might be something that is like a user profile is showing, right? It might be a statement, right? And it's something that's typically emotional or anecdotal or vague. We're struggling to be able to see spend data. It takes us a really long time to be able to onboard suppliers. We don't have any visibility into our KPIs on performance. It's really a lot of data spread out all over the place in our different systems of suppliers. Have you recognized maybe yourself saying one of these things? These are M1 frictions, right? These are pains and typically felt by you in the day-to-day work surrounding the supplier relationship management. Now, if we look at what M2 metrics are trying to quantify the pain that was discovered in M1. They attach the time, the cost, the resources back to the individual pain. And these are typically something that, a project or a process lead can be able to start to shape at a team level, to interview multiple stakeholders to understand what is the collective pain, and then being able to start tying that back to the time or the cost or the resources that those individual people are feeling. Now, this is where you start understanding, based upon the poll that we took earlier, those of you that are working within the status quo, which is about 70% of those people in attendance today, this is where you're starting to be able to quantify the cost that is hidden if you don't do something about fixing that particular problem. And this is where we start getting our first touch point of the cost of inaction. Now, this is some examples of how you can get to the core of this when you're interviewing your team, right? And this is the same way that a seller would look to be able to quantify these things with a potential buyer to support in building out that business case. So the M1 problem statement might be something like, it takes ages to be able to chase down suppliers. Well, what does that actually mean? How often does it happen? How many suppliers are we having to chase? Who else is involved in the process and how much of their time is it taking? What does this add up to on a quarterly basis or even on a monthly or a daily basis? And how does that roll up to a year? If that task disappeared tomorrow and wasn't so manual, what would be the time that you get back? These different things help us to be able to unlock more quantifiable measures of the pain. And these are the exact type of questions that we need to ask within our team if we're going to be able to quantify the case that technology can be able to solve for. This is a bulletproof way to be able to start seeing dollar signs linked back to the pain. Now, let's move beyond M2 metrics and talk a little bit about M3 metrics. We've talked about the initial pain, how we quantify it. Now, how do we get strategic? M3s tie the quantified pain to the business outcome. These are the types of things that the CPO, the CFO, whoever's taking that decision, who's ever signing that check, this is the type of stuff that they're taking decisions based upon. And you, potentially as a champion of change, this is where you need to think like an executive and connect the dots between the individual pain, the team cost, and the strategic priorities. This is what the language is necessary to be able to sell for new technology internally. And again, to hopefully increase that figure of 17%. Now, what are some of the questions that you could be able to ask there? Well, these are broader strategic questions. They're linking back to your business's goals. These are just examples. And of course, this is going to differentiate based upon what your business's strategic goals are. What I typically tell people is, what is on the whiteboard if I ask your COO or your CFO to be able to write up their top 3 priorities during this year? And how can I be able to tie back the pain to the quantified pain to one of those 3 strategic priorities? If you can't do that, you're going to have a very tough time being able to carve out the budget that you want to be able to invest in technology. And I think that it's also a great way to be able to frame what exactly is the type of technology I should go after now, right? Because the fact is that one of those strategic priorities might change in a year's time. And then that's an opening to be able to, again, tie the pain back to the quantified team pain back to the strategic goals. This is how we, of course, increase that figure of that 17%. So again, to recap, M1 is all about the pain. This is where we're understanding what's broken. M2 is where we're understanding what it's costing us. And M3 is where we're understanding why it matters to the business. So here's some examples that we've uncovered with some of our customers and we've seen over time and how they can actually be able to materialize in M1, M2, and M3, right? M1 being the pain here, saying something like it's a bit of a mess. It takes a long time to get suppliers onboarded. And two, being more prescriptive, saying that onboarding is time bound, takes X amount of time with Y number of tools, onboarding Z number of suppliers, that equals X amount of poor FTE focus, right? This is where, again, we can be able to start quantifying to the strategic goals of the costs of that poor focus. And of course, these are the things that hopefully we could be able to link back to the strategic goals of the business. And we could do this with multiple cases, right? For lack of supplier visibility. Again, we don't have a consistent way to track supplier risk. Okay, but what does it mean? If we can quantify that, saying only 30% of our strategic suppliers are reviewed quarterly, and recently we had some undetected issues that caused different types of production delays. This impacted us with cost X. That's where we can, of course, be able to link back to that strategic goal, saying that if we remove this particular inefficiency, if we start to get visibility, we hopefully will be able to meet the different types of commitments that our CPO has made to the rest of the board and how it is that they are looking to increase transparency. And we could do the same exercise for various types of pains. Again, the implication of poor audit readiness. You know, it's costly to do audits, but saying something like the pain of that it's chaos and we spend weeks digging, that is your pain, right? How can we quantify that? Well, every audit prep cycle takes 2 to 3 weeks and it requires 3 members and there's multiple audits per year. And, you know, with that, that's a lot of hours being spent inefficiently. The strategic goal might be that we're trying to get ready to reduce the risk related back to an EU related or an international related legislation, for example. We want to be able to deliver the results to our customers, holding our supplier base to the standards that they expect, right? These are strategic level goals that we can be able to link the implications of that pain back to. So I hope that everybody has now gotten some value out of understanding how you can also utilize metrics within the MEDPIC framework. There's a great book, and shout out to Chris Riley, our VP Sales EMEA, who has now made this book a mandatory read for everyone on our team, called Medic by Andy White, W-H-Y-T-E. If you're interested in learning more, this is the way that sellers qualify business and help to be able to build cases for buyers like yourselves to buy. And I think that this is it's a great way to be able to see the other side of the coin and also recognize how can you be able to be empowered with those metrics and go and sell those to your business. So without further ado, I want to be able to take some time to be able to get into some case studies here that have shown the ROI of supplier relationship management, the true M1, M2, and M3 value that we've been able to deliver to our customers over time. Let's start with Amtico, an awesome customer, a leader within luxury vinyl flooring. They are a mid-sized business at about 150 million in revenue with 600 employees. They have a main focus as a leader in luxury goods to be able to have high quality, innovate, and also work with sustainability. The challenge that was posed there is that they were working like many of you guys are today in homegrown solutions. They had a bit of an issue with their data duplication and cleanliness, which was leading to poor engagement. And they didn't have a good means to be able to get their suppliers engaged. So what did they do? They looked to Kodiak. We were able to provide them with an intuitive solution. We were able to not only help them to be able to create a single source of truth for their data, but we were able to help them to be able to reformat and segment their data and create a strategy that they can enact upon, creating a scalable platform for their category management, as well as then also totally changing the way that their supplier base engage with them. I typically say it, you have one chance to make a good first impression on your supplier. The fact is that sending them a PDF file via email that then you need to get back, extract the data, go upload in another solution, that's not efficient for anyone, right? Our solution allows our customers to be able to create shared spaces that they can be able to have dynamic portals where the supplier can be able to input their data and documentation. It's all about simplicity and the experience for that supplier. And this is the type of thing that aesthetically is giving that supplier a view of saying, this is a customer that cares about me and they are going to be engaged in our relationship. On the backside of that, it also will improve your engagement rate. And it'll also then, of course, be the lever that you can pull to make sure that you are keeping a compliant and visible supply chain. The key takeaways from this: the intuitive user experience improved the collaboration in their teams, but also with suppliers. They were able to enhance their risk monitoring and ultimately implement new sourcing and category strategies. Moving on to customer number 2 and case study number 2, PA Media Group. Like I said before, we love to work with businesses that are sourcing direct materials. With that being said, we work with service-based businesses as well, PA Media Group being an awesome example of that. Also a mid-sized business here. Their main issue is that they had a small procurement team with thousands of suppliers. They're an organization that's been around for a long time. And one of the challenges is that they didn't have any type of structured supplier management, and they had a brand new procurement org. So they had one of these fantastic opportunities to be able to have a greenfield and create their future. With that being said, they also had surmounting pressures from their board and customers on requirements related back to ESG. They recognized that they needed SRM to be able to create resilience, manage risk, but also to go out to market and actually win new contracts. Again, one of those strategic goals that they were able to link back the actual value of SRM to. So what was the solution? Well, like many, they created the single source of truth. They also began to utilize our platform to be able to bring some quantifiable results into their management of suppliers and how they approve or not approve suppliers, how they qualify or don't qualify suppliers, what suppliers are risks or opportunities. Our solution has a rating methodology at the core, which allows our customers to quickly see which suppliers are doing well and living up to your standards and which suppliers are not. They also, of course, create an opportunity to be able to create more compliance with their supplier code of conduct. And this, of course, led to a situation where they have really succeeded in not only onboarding their broader supplier base, but really getting their strategic suppliers to buy in to the collaboration that's happening within the supplier management solution as well. One of the things that is not easy to do, of course, adopting this without having any type of other solution prior. What are some of the key takeaways we saw from our time working from PA Media Group and continue to see? They had a multi-stakeholder approval chain, which has been cut down in the time and the effort. That workflow is something that they have been able to automate a lot of aspects of. They've been able to improve the detection of supplier risks and have different types of insights on their suppliers, financial, media, and the like. And some of the last elements, of course, in that strategic level, like I said, is that they went out and met their their customer requests on having ESG level reporting within their supplier base. And this is one of the most crucial elements that they worked on very hard within the organization and very hard within our platform as well. One of the key reasons why they were able to go out to market in the first place and buy a supplier relationship management solution. Again, going back to the importance of the M1, M2, and particularly those M3 metrics when you're selling your case. Cloetta, a brand in confectionaries. They are a candy manufacturer. If you're in the Nordics or in mainland Europe, you probably know about them. They have multiple brands and therefore a lot of brand exposure. They are a larger business, still mid-size though, around 800 million in revenue. And they also have about 1,000 suppliers globally. Their challenge is that they were actually currently outsourcing their supplier management. They had a service provider that was supporting them with supplier management. They needed to shift their culture of how bringing that in-house. At the same time, they required within a new push, a strategic push for sustainability insights, how it is that they wanted to be able to collaborate with their suppliers. And at the same time, of course, quality is critical. It's food, right? It's process manufacturing. the things that they buy, direct and raw materials, matter for their end product. There is a lot of value created in their supply chain, and also a lot of value that potentially could be lost with hiccups. So the solution, they were able to bring Kodiak in and readjust, I would say, their culture around supplier management. They went from, again, having this as outsourced managed services to creating a new way of working with supplier management. Our solution, being a modular one, helps our customers to take a land and expand approach to adopting not only our platform, but also the value you can get out of the platform. This, of course, helped them step by step to do things that ensured the compliance and quality controls, and ultimately led to some awesome results in the meantime as well. Some of that land and expand approach aided the change management and the adoption of the solution, which is always a good way to be able to create change. They were able to create a single source of truth, which also then improved their broader business intelligence that was feeding into other parts of the business. And they also merged quality and sourcing insights. It's all too often that audits happen over here and sourcing events happen over here. It's all too often that quality insights are being gauged here and new suppliers are being worked with here. The ability to be able to converge those two things led to a greater performance within the supplier base, being able to really spot which suppliers were being the best and which suppliers were being the worst in various KPI areas. The last case that we're digging into here before we get into the question and answer is Hubner. Hubner is a leader in gangway systems. The majority of trains and buses around the world have Hubner products within them. They are also a larger business, 3.5 million employees. The revenue figures that I could find online were 500 million. I think that it's a bit higher than that, in fact. The challenge that they experienced, well, they had an S2P solution. They had multiple solutions in-house, but they weren't getting the job done because they weren't user-friendly. And more importantly, they weren't having the supplier engage well enough. The flexibility was required, and also they needed a structured way to work for the German Supply Chain Due Diligence Act. Additionally, they wanted to be able to stop going from a reactive way of managing their suppliers and managing their risk. What was the solution? They actually had a very robust process for buying. They went out to market and sourced in a legitimate RFX process with a 500-item requirement list to ensure fit. And they chose Kodiak after that particular assessment. One of the reasons why is because while we are modular, we also are very configurable, right? It allows us to work with a broad set of customers, but it also allows our customers to be able to manage their own flows related to their processes and their particular KPIs, their business critical events. This also helps our customers, just like Hubner did, to go from an action of managing risk to being more resilient, right? The ability to drive performance and be proactive within these activities as well. This led to a lot of efficiencies, but some of the key takeaways is that there was massive reduction on the time spent and huge gains on the time savings from manual tasks. They were able to enhance their overall transparency and shift to a proactive way of working with their suppliers. And of course, they created greater stewardship and ownership of the products at hand because the user experience and user interfaces allowed higher adoption. What does that mean? It drove for more data-driven decisions, which of course is helping their team to be able to work smarter, not harder. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be able to listen in to our 4 case studies and also understanding the other side of the coin, how we can be able to support with the metrics that matter to be able to sell the ROI of supplier relationship management. Now, I would like to pause and give everybody the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have within the chat, either about our solution or any of the content that you've seen today. While doing so, I will also then issue here the opportunity to directly choose to book a demo. If you'd like to book a demo with our team, feel free to click the particular link that's on screen now, and you can be able to go ahead and do so. And following the question and answer session, we will also then make sure to distribute the slides deck or a subset of the slide deck that was seen today as well. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it. Again, if there's any questions, feel free to utilize the chat line now to ask those questions, whether they be about Kodiak, be about supplier relationship management, be about the content. Julian, yes, we will distribute the handout following the question and answer session. So again, we'll wait a moment to see if there's any questions that come through. Please don't be shy. Utilize the chat now to be able to ask any questions that you might have. All right, it doesn't seem as if we have any questions rolling through. And if you guys are interested, again, as I said, to get a demo of the platform, feel free to click on book a demo and you could be able to be brought to our demo page where you can find some time with our team. All right, here are some questions that actually came through, sorry. Let's take the moment to be able to answer some of these then. Coming through from Emmanuel, in the 4 examples, you have the feeling that are more qualitative ones than quantitative. Do you have more quantitative data? Yes, we do. I think that the tough thing always with being able to quantify is that most of the time it gets to, for example, what is the team doing, right? So it's time savings or efficiencies that are able to be done. I think that one of the things that I typically ask people is to try and quantify back to, for example, the other side of the business. Is there anything that we've done in our supply chain that has led to us missing out on business being won, or the opportunity for us to be able to develop our business that we can win, right? That's one of the things that I really like when it comes to quantitative aspects. But let's take that offline, Emmanuel, and we can talk a little bit more specific to your business if you're interested in doing so as well. John had a question here about the AI development. John, thank you for the question. I mean, we have some live capabilities with AI in the platform today, particularly in our action space, to be able to, it's utilizing generative AI to create, actions. I think long term, where we see our solution heading is the ability to be able to have prescriptive and predictive insights that are feeding our customers with a profile and benchmark of, hey, supplier X in country Y in category Z that you're working with should have a performance and a sustainable practices, and they should have, for example, the living up to requirements on these various ways, and be able to feed our customers also when they're seeing things within their supply chain of how it is in fact that they can also be able to act upon those things. So again, giving them proposed actions based upon the different risks or the performance profile that they're seeing within their supplier base. So those are some of the key ways that AI development will continue in the platform, and one of the unique things that I think we have the opportunity to do at Kodiak as well. So thanks for that question. Werner had the question about how Kodiak Hub is working with other systems like SAP. So it would depend on what SAP solution you're talking about, Ariba or HANA. Typically speaking, our solution is in 70% of our customers has an integration to the ERP. And this is, of course, for data quality. That can be a bi-directional sync. It could be a trigger-based sync. It could be a single directional sync. And the majority of our customers have that type of a integration. Typically speaking, it happens within like the initial onboarding or due diligence or approval flows, right? That's where the systems are working together very in tandem, or related back to the performance data feeding in, from example, the ERP into the Kodiak platform. Thank you for the question, Vanna. And if you're interested again in learning more specific to your ecosystem, which of course we always would look to fit within, then please reach out to our team. Elena had some questions come in here, and it's a two-folded question, saying that you understand that Kodiak integrates AI in the platform. Could you please provide more details on specific AI functionality? So mentioned some there before. And you actually said something about document content. So thank you very much, Elena, because that is another project that we're working on an AI perspective is OCR, extraction of KPIs and document or contract criteria is one of the big aspects that our team is working on right now in our contract management capabilities. It's a technology that's been around for a long time, but now we're trying to think of really innovative ways because the technology has really ramped up in how we can be able to apply it to be able to make sure that we're extracting SLAs and holding those suppliers against those things and the performance that we're measuring. So those are some of the main projects and ways that we see AI continuing to be able to develop, particularly on working with documentation and contract management as well. So thanks for that question. All right. If there is no other questions, then we will take the time here to be able to share the output of the case studies handout. Feel free to download the content by just simply clicking the download button. You'll be able to get a version of today's deck that has the content that was presented. Just wait a moment more. And with that, then I would like to thank everybody that was in attendance today for your time, your engagement, your interest. If you're interested in learning more about Kodiak, you can feel free to get in touch with our team. And I'm sure that one of our experts would be happy to be able to guide you through and understand a little bit more of your needs and requirements and see how they can be able to fit with our capabilities. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day, a good Friday when it comes, and a great weekend when that comes as well.